Hello, my friends. I'm back again with some more stories for you today, and of course my insights on them. Today's first story is about OP's wife and stepdaughter, who demands OP gives them his son's emergency fund money because stepdaughter got pregnant and needs money to support the baby. So let's see if it's OP's responsibility, both morally and financially, to help as a stepfather or not. Enjoy the stories, guys, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I've known my wife for 8 years. I have a stepdaughter who's 21. She's in college. Doesn't have a job to support herself, so she's struggling, but her mom sends her money every month. I have a chronically ill son, 13. I try to keep things balanced, but my son's needs outweighs my stepdaughter's wants. I couldn't buy her a car. I couldn't help her with rent because I believe that as long as she's a healthy adult who's capable of working, then that's not my responsibility. My son is, and he needs me. I've put money aside for him as his emergency fund. I'm getting tired of issues coming up constantly, so I need to be financially ready. My stepdaughter loves me and her stepbrother. We have no issues except for the financial situation. My wife has been acting strange for an entire week. She then called my stepdaughter to visit us, and they both told me that my stepdaughter and her boyfriend are expecting. But her boyfriend had a huge argument with her and disagreed about being ready to be a parent. She told him to step aside and that she'll take care of the baby financially. She started cussing out all men, calling them irresponsible, selfish, cruel creatures, and that they're all the same. I asked her then, what am I? She said I was different. I'm kind, generous, and caring. I knew where this was headed and didn't like it. My wife said my stepdaughter's boyfriend was a deadbeat who doesn't deserve to be a parent. But since we're supporting our grandbaby, then we'll be a huge part in his or her life. I was confused. My wife brought up the emergency fund, saying we could split the money between my son and grandbaby to support my stepdaughter and provide a good life for our grandbaby. I lashed out at her. I told her my son's health is my priority, and I'm not sharing his emergency fund with anyone for any reason. She took it as in I don't want to be in my grandbaby's life, and asked if my response would have been different if this was my bio daughter. We argued for hours, then I left the house. Both my wife and stepdaughter saying I'm abandoning my grandbaby and being unsupportive, although they know how much I'm struggling with my son. I just can't afford to provide for a baby. I'm barely able to care for my son's medical expenses. Perhaps I should explain that both me and my wife share our daily expenses. She uses what's left of her salary on my stepdaughter, while I use some of my salary for my son's emergency fund. My wife doesn't contribute in it, and she doesn't have to. It's her choice, since she says her daughter has needs, and so does my son. That's just shocking, guys. I think that OP's wife is a huge a-hole here. Stepdaughter needs to make some decisions here if she can't afford the baby, as it's definitely not fair to pressure OP to give up his son's emergency fund. Actions have consequences, and stepdaughter is old enough to realize that. Let's see what the community has to say about this, and do they agree with my opinion? Purple Goatna Tutu says, not the a-hole. Stepdaughter needs to find the free and low-cost ways to raise a baby and get a job. She is likely eligible for government help. She needs to enroll in all the programs. Your son sounds like he has high needs. I hope everyone can be okay, but you are not the a-hole for wanting to make sure your son has good medical care. Yeah, I posted that, says, not the a-hole. It's very smart to have an emergency savings fund for a medically complex child. So many people are bankrupt or cannot get the care they need because of a lack of funds. Your wife and stepdaughter both sound extreme and manipulative. Stepdaughter's boyfriend brought up a very valid point. They don't sound ready to be parents if they cannot even support themselves. Why is your stepdaughter not working right now? Anyhow, ready to be parents or not, it sounds like they are going to become parents, so they need to get ready. I can respect her choice if she's not willing to have an A or place the baby up for adoption, but she needs to take steps to care for the baby then. It's ridiculous for them to want to cut the father out just because he says they're not ready. I don't understand why your wife just assumes you guys will care for the baby instead of encouraging her daughter to do better. If your wife already helps her out, I would expect that to continue, but not at the detriment of your son. NLCS says, not the a-hole. She's an adult and it's her bad choices, not your responsibility, especially when considering your son. My boyfriend of a year found out he was going to be a father by his ex-girlfriend when she was 8 months pregnant, and the baby is now 4 months old. They dated for a long time before breaking up, and he and I met about 8 weeks or so later when I moved to his town. Before he and I started dating, I never even met this girl, not until she had given birth, and I never had a problem with her. This girl, however, has a problem with me, because she thought the two of them would get back together. He initiated the breakup and she didn't want to, and I sort of ruined that plan by simply existing. She's jealous, and she's openly said she thinks I should go away so her baby can have an intact family. When we refused to break up, she took him to court for custody and child support and used my criminal record against me so that I can only be around the baby when my boyfriend is present, and I cannot stay in our apartment overnight when the baby is there. My criminal record is a loaned case from several years ago. I was 18 and made a stupid, senseless, idiotic choice that had consequences. No one was hurt, but one of the people I committed the crime with was under 18, and those of us over 18 were all charged with endangerment. I'm currently at the tail end of my plea deal probation, and I've had no infractions or violations, and strive to make up for the stupidity of my past. So, 2 nights out of every week, plus every other weekend, I have to find other accommodations, which is kind of a drain on my financials, and also makes me angry because even though I'm not on the lease at our apartment, I pay 50% of the bills, and can prove this with proof of payments and credit card statements, etc. So, 12 days out of the month, I have to leave my home, and my boyfriend is now paying child support and spending money to buy baby food and clothes and toys, doctor's bills and such. So he can't afford to help me. The other day I was running some errands with my best friend, and the baby's mother happened to be at the same shopping complex. She waved at me and began to come over. I didn't want to deal with her for all the obvious reasons, so my friend and I hurried up loading the car and drove away. Later, my boyfriend came to me and said the baby's mom was blowing his phone up with complaints because I ignored her. He told me that he's trying to keep a cordial relationship with her, even if she refuses to do the same, and now this girl was threatening to take him back to court and get his visitation changed, all because I refused to speak to her. If we want to get technical, yeah, I ignored her, but she can't really know that, because I was wearing sunglasses and saw her across the parking lot over several cars, so she can't really even prove I noticed her. But the damage is already done. Was I an a-hole? Edit. I know some people will also judge me for the criminal past I mentioned. I only ask that you take a moment and understand that I'm not the same person I was when I committed the crime. I pled guilty, did community service. I took classes that the judge ordered me to. I dutifully served my probation and have never committed any violations while serving my probation. I fully acknowledge that I messed up and strive to better myself every day. Since being found guilty and accepting a plea, I've not even received a traffic violation. Honestly, I don't blame OP for ignoring her, but obviously it was going to make OP's life harder, or at the very minimum, OP's boyfriend's. To be honest though, if she thinks OP is so untrustworthy that OP can't be in the same house overnight with her kid, then she has no business coming up to OP to talk about OP's boyfriend present. For all OP knew, she was coming up to start a fight. I don't think OP is in the wrong here, but I think she really needs to look at her living situation. How long is OP going to be willing or able to pay for alternative housing for 12 days out of the month? At that point, OP should just have her own apartment until her boyfriend figures his custody and rights out. And now let's see what the community thinks about it. Try to Eat says, not the a-hole. I think cordial went away when she got you kicked out of your home for a third of the year. You don't owe her a conversation. If I were you, I'd give some serious thought to whether you want to be part of this circus in the long term though. She will never not be a pain in your butt. Coco Snee says, this is an unpopular opinion here, but everybody sucks here. The ex is the a-hole threatening to take your boyfriend to court again because you blew her off. None of what the ex is doing outside of this is out of line. Just hear me out, because endangering a minor is a big thing, and I would be wary of a person with that on their criminal record around my child. You can be sorry and vow to never do stuff like that again, but the baby's mom doesn't know that. Also, of course she went to court to get custody arranged, and for your boyfriend to pay child support. That's the norm. He is her child's father, and court-ordered custody arrangement and child support is the responsible thing to do. How much you pay rent to your boyfriend doesn't concern the ex. You being or not being on the lease doesn't concern her. Her responsibility is the child, and that your boyfriend takes care of his parental responsibilities. You were dumb to blow off the ex. If you're cordial and polite with her, she might actually start to trust you and ease up on the court order, you know. So you could stay over when the baby stays with your boyfriend. Your own past actions are why you're not allowed around the baby, and I can't blame the ex for that. Instead, you gave the ex zero reason to trust you around her child. Big Vag Energy 94 says, going against the grain, you're the a-hole. This woman is protecting her baby. She has a brand new baby, and she wants the father to be in its life. But he moves in a new girlfriend he's been with for less than a year. You didn't move in yesterday. And the timing between your relationships is really close. Who has a criminal record, including child endangerment. And she doesn't know you or the circumstances at all. She just knows her brand new baby is going to be spending the night away from her in a house with someone with that past. She tried to approach you in what sounds like a friendly manner, and you just peeled out. If this man is in your life, his baby and his baby mama are going to be in your life. Also, of course he can't afford to help you out because he's spending money on the baby. It's a baby that he's responsible for. You're an adult. You need to let the mom know you're not a danger to her child or going to be a problem, or you need to leave this messy situation. Me, 30s, male. Anna, 40s, female. My grandparents owned a ton of land in what was basically the middle of nowhere. Has now become the outskirts of a vast growing city, i.e., it's very, very valuable. My grandma died earlier this year, and I became the executor of her estate. Oldest grandson, see above. Family is all kinds of ducked up. Obviously, being the executor of a quite large estate, I get loads of requests from my cousins and siblings to sell the land and give them money. Or really just give them money. I'm in contact with an attorney and an appraiser, both of whom I trust. They both advise against selling, as the land will only be worth more, potentially a lot more in the future. I'm going with their advice and not selling the land, with one exception. My cousin Anna is the nicest lady you'll ever meet. She would literally give you the clothes off her back. My aunt and uncle, 60s male and female, are a-holes of the highest order. They kept Anna morbidly obese from the time she was a teenager, so she couldn't leave them. They'd fix her plate with huge quantities of food, then refuse to let her leave the table until it was finished. They only stocked their house with junk and soda, so she didn't have any alternatives. It was tragic to see as a kid. She was so sad and in so much pain. She hasn't had a job, she's never dated, and she still lives at home with her parents and is pretty much their slave, as she has no alternative. Aunt and Uncle Dipspit finally got Anna weight loss surgery about 2 years ago. Coincidentally, right when her weight got to the point where they would have to take care of her, instead of the other way around. Anna has lost over 200 pounds, and I'm so proud of her. Anna now has a lot of loose, hanging skin from the weight loss. My aunt and uncle won't pay for the removal, so she is constantly in pain and embarrassed by it. I plan to sell a piece of the land to help pay for Anna's plastic surgery. The rest of my siblings and cousins are calling me an a-hole because I'm not giving the money to them. Am I the a-hole? Well, I certainly don't judge OP for wanting to help a family member who is struggling. However, if OP is the executor of a will which states that the deceased wants to see the lands, or profits thereof, divided equally, there is only so long OP can wait to give fellow family members their share. Especially now that OP gave it to one. It can translate as very patronizing and favoritism towards OP's other family members, who know they need the money for things that OP deems too trivial, but which can help them a lot. I think OP should not let this become a potential rift in the family, when OP can just assign everyone their portion of land, and the responsibility with that. If they want to sell, then fine. Let's see what the community has to say about the situation. Majestic Junicorn says, not the a-hole. You're the only member of the family your cousin can trust, and who actually cares about her. This will help both her physical and mental health, and it isn't for vanity reasons. She is lucky to have you. Her parents are the a-holes majorly. No wonder you got the estate. Your grandmother probably figured you were the only one to trust. Superfast Mama says, you're the a-hole. Look, your heart is in the right place, but since you said that the proceeds of the land must be split equally among 4 heirs, you can't just do what feels right to you. All 6 heirs should get their share from the sale. Monda Deanne says, you're the a-hole. You're supposed to execute the will, but you've decided to hold out and play favorites. Either give everyone their share of the inheritance, or let Anna wait until everyone gets their inheritance to have her surgery. And I am saying this as someone who is obese and would like to have weight loss surgery and skin removal, so I understand where she is coming from. My husband, 38 male, and I, 36 female, have 2 kids, a son, 16 male, and a daughter, 14 female. I used to be close with my son, but as a teenager, he's been very withdrawn and moody. I understand this is normal as children grow up, but I think he may be on the extreme end. In his free time, he stays in his room all the time playing games or chatting with his friends, which is fine if balanced. But it's gotten to the point we only see him during meals, where he won't talk to us. He gives us one-word answers and then leaves ASAP. It feels like years since the last time I or anyone else in the family have had a real conversation with him. This has made me a bit sad, especially as he stopped talking to my parents, his grandparents as well. As a boy, he used to play chess with his grandfather all the time, and they really bonded over it. I know his grandfather has been lonely and wistful over it, particularly as his health has gotten worse. I've tried to talk to my son about spending more time with family, even if it's just a little each week, and how appreciative his grandfather would be in particular. It doesn't work, as he complains that I'm just lecturing or guilting him. So I've been thinking about it for a while, and I wanted to try to incentivize spending more time with family. My husband and I instituted a new rule. If my son spent at least 30 minutes a week with a family member, he would get a 30% boost to his allowance money. We emphasized it could be 30 minutes of anything, with anyone in the family. He could throw a football around with his dad, go biking with his sister, play cards or chess with his grandfather, etc. Just to be clear, even if he didn't do it, he would still get his regular allowance, just not the extra 30%. In order to be fair, we also gave the same option to my daughter. This was a lot easier for her, because she's more social than him and was already spending more than 30 minutes with family anyway. She was pretty happy with the new rule. My son, however, was very upset. He complained to us that this new rule punished him and favored his sister because of their personality differences. He pointed out that she enjoyed socializing and doing family stuff, whereas he didn't, and that it was unfair that she got extra cash for doing things she already likes. He's been even moodier and more withdrawn these last couple of days, and the new rule seems to have the opposite of its intended effect. My husband now thinks we might be the a-holes. He says that it's true the new allowance rule is easier on our daughter. My husband also thinks we went about this the wrong way, and by trying to pay our son to spend time with family, that would just make it feel like a job and make him hate doing it. I really don't know at this point, and I'm at the end of my rope. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I accept the you're the a-hole judgment, and I see how bribing my son to spend time with his grandparents and family wasn't a good idea. My thinking had been that it would be a nice incentive to give him a slight push, and that 30 minutes was a small amount for 1 week. But I can see why that would make it seem more like a chore, and perhaps have the opposite effect. I do appreciate everyone sharing their perspective, and believe it or not, it has been reassuring just hearing that this is in fact a very common phenomenon among teen gamers. I still hope he will spend time with his grandfather of his own accord at some point, but I will stop trying to push him. I see how important it is to allow him to come to the decision himself. Yeah, I think OP is in the wrong here. From his reaction, it sounds like he may already feel like OP favors daughter, and this just cemented it. There's no reason to give her a boost either. If this was something special for him to try to get him more involved, OP should let it be special for him. Let's see what the community has to say. Fish Scrumptious says, a gentle you're the a-hole here. Your choice of incentive assumes a desired personality type and dismisses others. It is, depending on his mental state and neurology, also possibly ableist. It's the equivalent of telling your kids, I'll pay you extra allowance if you go outside and run a mile every day. Because exercise and fresh air are important, and there's no time limit, right, and anyone can do it. Only one of your kids is prone to frequent ankle sprains, so it isn't really fair, and they don't have the same opportunity. I get what you're going for, and it's understandable. But you need to do some collaborative problem solving with your son to figure out a solution that meets everyone's needs, which may not be what you think they are, and that can realistically be executed. Don't think of this as a catastrophic failure. It was a try that failed. So now you, plural, as a family, go back and try again to find another way to work on this problem. Straws Discordia says, you're the a-hole. When I was 16, I spent all my time with friends or in my room. That's not uncommon at all. Don't try to force him to spend time with you and punish him when he doesn't. Make a point of letting him know he's welcome, and don't make a big deal if he shows up. Nothing makes introverts feel worse than when someone mocks their good behavior. I Hate You 1975 says, not the a-hole. You aren't asking him to spend hours volunteering at an old folks' home with strangers. You're asking him to be a part of the family. That's it. For 30 minutes. You aren't saying he has to clean or do chores. Spend 30 minutes with a family member, which would probably do him good. Our own therapist told us to stay active with them even as teens. Ask them to help with ABC or putting together XYZ. Then thank them and say, "Man, I needed your help. Thank you. Want to get a soda and burger? No? Okay, thanks," and carry on. Don't allow them to completely cut themselves out of the family. They need you more than ever now. It's a difficult time in their lives.